A how-to guide to make story maps for the Three Little Pigs. Story maps are a great multisensory way of introducing children to key features in a text or in a story. It could be the characters, the setting, or the sequence of a story. It can also be used for poems and rhymes, just like the Superworm one here. I wonder if any of your children can remember this. Superworm is super long. Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm. Hip hip hooray for Superworm. It's important that before the children ever even start to think about recording their ideas and their impressions of a story, to actually hear the story read to them and shared with them multiple times. At school we would do this over a week. Maybe even longer, so the children are really familiar with the story. They'd have a chance to join in with different parts of the story, particularly if there are any repeated refrains, and then we'd start to actually draw it and start to lay out the plot of the story and look at the characters and what happens. So this week's home learning is all about beginning a story map. Some children have already had experience of doing this in nursery, others won't have had an opportunity to. So the most important part is really just to share the story. It could even be lots of different versions of the story as well and look at the similarities and differences. Once you've actually got familiar with it, maybe just pick one of them, maybe your favourite one, and actually think about the different parts of it there. So everybody has lots of different experiences using story maps so far. Some children will be familiar with them, some children may even have tried to draw them out themselves. But for many, the most important part, as I said in the last slide, is just to get familiar with the story. If your child's ready, you could start asking them, what's your favourite part of the story? Get them to draw a picture of it, and then whatever they say about their picture and the marks they've made, just write it down, be their scribe. Your child might be ready to think about the beginning, middle and end of the story. Again, get them to draw the different parts, join them up with an arrow to show the route that the story takes, and then scribe for them their ideas that they say. It's important to write down exactly what it is they say so they can see their own words in print. You can even use a pre-printed version to make a story map just like the one below. This story map is already printed out for you. It starts in the top left hand corner, and as you track the story along with your finger, just read the pictures. It's the very important stage in reading, to actually read the pictures and get your child to actually describe what's happening. Can they guess what the missing picture is? Can they find that missing picture on the right hand side of the page? If they can, you can either draw it in or cut it out and stick it on. And once the story map is finished, can you retell the story in your own words? Rather than use a pre-printed version, maybe your child could start to draw their own story map, showing the important parts, not just the beginning, middle and end, but maybe even include some of the other important parts of the story. Here's an example of how we might have retold the story using the pictures on the right hand side. Some of the older children are becoming more aware of sounds and their relationships to letters. They might like to try and sound out some of the words to label their pictures, rather than just rely on you to scribe for them. For example, the word pig. Can they hear the first sound, p, 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 pig? They may even hear the end, and the last one that normally comes along is the middle sound too. For a word like house, there are a lot of sounds that the child won't be able to hear. It's quite a tricky word really. So really focus on the initial sound and any other significant sounds that you can hear. At nursery, story maps will generally take a few weeks, if not longer. There are so many different elements to it. From the sharing the stories to mark making and drawing significant parts of the story, from thinking about the beginning, middle and end, or even plotting out the whole story as a group. Performance is the bit the children really enjoy. Working out actions to go with different parts of the story, and this really helps them to remember the story and the progress through that story. It helps them in a multi-sensory way because they're actually doing it, and that's the bit that children always remember. There are a couple of videos here to show you some examples of how others have approached this. They are different to the things that we might do. Obviously we don't think about punctuation so much in nursery, but you'll get a little bit of a flavour for the performance element of a story map. We hope you enjoy it.